A train journey, just 42 minutes, a soldier's confession, a student's awakening, and the beginning of a journey that would end in the White House. But there's something else in this story. The paper Frank Miller gave Obama didn't have just one sentence. There was a second line. And that line would influence the toughest decision Obama made after becoming president. October 17th, 1981, 6:30 a.m. New York Penn Station. The cold October wind was seeping through the glass doors of the station. In the early morning hours, the station was still drowsy. There were only a few early rising workers and scattered passengers. 20-year-old Barack Obama had boarded the train to Boston to clear his head after a challenging week at Columbia University. In Obama's hand was a small book with worn corners, The Souls of Black Folk. This work by W.E.B. Du Bois was his closest companion during this period. Because at Columbia, he felt very alone. While most of his classmates were building their dreams on Wall Street, Obama was struggling with his own identity. Where do I belong in this country? He constantly wondered. His father was from Kenya, his mother from Kansas. He himself was born in Hawaii, raised in Indonesia, and now studying in New York. It was as if he was constantly stuck in limbo. As he approached the train platform, he checked his ticket. Car 3, seat 14A. This early train to Boston was usually empty. Maybe he could read quietly, or maybe just look out the window and think. But that morning, Barack Obama didn't know something. On the same train, in car 2, seat 12C, a 39-year-old man named Frank Miller would be sitting. This man would say the words that would change Obama's life forever. The train slowly pulled away from the station. Obama leaned against the window, watching Manhattan's skyscrapers. As the city shrank behind them, his own future seemed unclear too. Would he study law, writing, or would he live an ordinary life? These questions kept spinning in his mind. In car 3, a few businessmen were reading their morning newspapers. In the corner, a young mother was trying to put her baby to sleep. Obama also opened his book, but he couldn't concentrate that day. Just then, the door opened. A man wearing a thick brown coat entered. This man, with prematurely gray hair and deep lines on his face, had a weight in his steps that caught Obama's attention. He seemed to carry the burden of years. On his shoulder was an old, worn military bag. On his jacket collar, a faded metallic badge gleamed. The man walked toward the empty seat across from Obama. As he put his bag in the overhead compartment, Obama noticed the scars from old wounds on his hands. These hands had seen many things. He sat down quietly. They didn't speak for minutes. Only the monotonous clicking of the train on the tracks echoed in the car. Outside, the Connecticut countryside was flowing by. Obama was trying to focus on his book, but the presence of the man across from him was disturbing him. Not disturbing, more like curiosity. Who was this man? Where was he coming from? Then the man asked in a hoarse but gentle voice, "Son, what are you reading?" Obama closed his book and looked into the man's eyes. There was a lot in those eyes. Fatigue, sadness, but also a kind of wisdom. "American history," Obama said. The man let out a short laugh, but there was pain in that laugh, as if he knew how different the history he had experienced was. "History? Interesting. I'm one of the men lost in that history." Obama became more curious. "What do you mean?" The man opened the collar of his coat. Inside, there was a medal with faded color and rusted corners. A Vietnam War medal. "Vietnam," he said briefly. "My name is Frank Miller. Frank Miller, 1st Infantry Battalion, 1968 to 1970. When Frank started talking, Obama's world changed. This man wasn't just telling him his own story, he was conveying the drama of a generation. "I was your age, maybe younger. At 19, I was drafted from Memphis. My family was proud. Our son will fight for the country," they said. "But what we saw there, no one had told us." Frank's voice trembled. As the train lights flickered, his memories seemed to come alive. Frank's voice trembled. As the train lights flickered, his memories seemed to come alive too. "I had a friend there. His name was John Thompson, a farm boy from Dallas. John always told me, 'Frank, this war will end and we'll return and make America a better place.' That boy dreamed of young people like you finding better opportunities in the future." Obama's face changed. "What happened to John?" Frank remained silent for a long time. Then he took a deep breath. "In 1969, in the Mekong Delta, an ambush. John stayed there. But before he died, he told me something. He held my hand and said, "Frank, when you return, you'll find young people who will live John's dream. You'll tell them, real power is giving people hope." As he said this sentence, Frank's eyes welled up. Obama was frozen. These words seemed very familiar to him, but he didn't know from where. When I returned, America had turned its back on us. Instead of flowers at the airport, there were protests. They were shouting, "Murderer." We'd lost our friends there, experienced trauma, but no one could understand. Frank looked at the photo he took from his coat pocket. In the photo, a young soldier had his arm on another soldier's shoulder, smiling. "This is John and me, our last photo. I always carry this photo with me, so I don't forget John's dream." Obama's eyes fixed on the photo. What was John's dream? That every young person in America, regardless of their race, color, or religion, could achieve what they dreamed of. John came from poverty, but dreamed of going to Harvard. "Frank," he would say, "one day a child will be born in this country. Maybe his mother will be white, his father black. That child will grow up and even become the leader of this country, because that's what America means, the place where impossible dreams come true." When he heard these words, Obama's heart raced. He recognized himself in John's description. He was exactly that child, mother white from Kansas, father black from Kenya. Frank looked at Obama for a long time. "You're different, son. There's a fire in your eyes, like the children John talked about. You're not an ordinary student. Your path is longer, harder, but much more meaningful." Obama smiled shyly. "I'm just trying to study. Maybe I'll become a lawyer, maybe a writer. I don't know yet." Frank shook his head. "No, son. Your path is to touch people's hearts. Look, the war taught us something. The most powerful weapon isn't bullets. It's hope. You'll give people hope, too." As the train approached Boston, Frank took out a small crumpled paper from his pocket. The paper was handwritten and yellowed. There were 2 lines on it. "Real power is giving people hope. John Thompson, Vietnam, 1969. Obama took the paper, read it carefully, and put it in his pocket. Frank stood up and took his bag. "You won't see me again, son. I'm just a veteran, a lost shadow. But don't forget John's words, because one day this country will need your voice. And when that day comes, John's dream will come true with you." As the train entered the station, Obama watched Frank disappear into the crowd. At that moment, he felt as if a part of him was missing. Years passed. Obama finished Columbia, entered Harvard. He studied law, worked with communities, entered politics. In every difficult moment, he would take out that yellowed paper from his jacket's inner pocket and read John Thompson's words. When the presidential campaign began in 2007, he showed that paper to his close friends. "This is my compass," he said. "These words were told to me on a train." And when Obama took the stage in 2008 with the slogan, "Yes, we can," he was actually conveying to millions what Frank had whispered to him in that train car. John Thompson's words, "Real power is giving people hope." During Obama's presidency, in one of the toughest decisions he made in the Oval Office, he took out that paper from his desk drawer. When making the decision to withdraw from Afghanistan, he remembered John Thompson's dream. In 2015, at one of the ceremonies where Obama received Vietnam veterans at the White House, he searched the crowd for a familiar face. He had looked for Frank Miller, but Frank wasn't there. After the ceremony, he instructed his personal assistant, "Find Frank Miller, 1st Infantry Battalion, Vietnam veteran." Research revealed a surprising truth. Frank Miller's military records existed, but his traces after 1987 had disappeared, as if he had suddenly vanished one day. But in a small town in Pennsylvania, there was a volunteer center working with elderly people, and they found information that a man working there was named Frank. Obama wanted to secretly visit that town, but security protocols didn't allow it. Instead, he sent a special donation to the volunteer center in that town. With the donation was an anonymous note. "Real power is giving people hope. To the man who taught me these words, a grateful student." He never knew if that note reached Frank, but in his heart, he had hoped that he would find Frank again one day. Even today, no trace of Frank Miller has been found. He was a lost veteran. Maybe he's still working with the elderly in that town. Maybe he's already reunited with John. But that 42-minute train journey changed not just a student, but a nation, even the world. Because sometimes the greatest changes begin in the most unexpected encounters. And sometimes 42 minutes between a veteran and a student can change the course of history. What about you? Have you ever met a stranger who changed your life forever? Share in the comments. Because we at Real Life Stories know the most powerful stories are the ones that happen in real life.